Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Super STEM Saturday. We're very thrilled to have you here today on this beautiful Saturday morning. So as we all know, early childhood is a time of incredible growth and learning. Today, we're focusing on integrating science, technology, engineering, and math into our classroom in a way that truly supports the whole child. We're very excited to explore how play-based learning can not only make STEM concepts accessible, but also very fun for our young children, but also that can help us address and reduce challenging behaviors in your classroom. So our goal today is to empower you as a teacher with different strategies and ideas that you can bring back to your classrooms. So with that said, throughout the day, we're going to be exploring different ways that you are able to make science, math, hands-on, inquiry-driven, and most importantly, meaningful for your young learners in your classroom. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your commitment to creating rich, engaging learning environment for your children in your classroom. We're looking forward to learning, sharing, and growing together as we focus on fostering the next generation of problem solvers, thinkers, and innovators. So let's get started. So this morning, we have an agenda full for you. So as we're doing our welcome now, at 8:40, we'll have our test and introduction by Dr. Bouza. At 10:30, we'll have our break. And at 10:40, we'll pick back up where we're gonna learn all about play-based experiences for young children. And at noon, we'll have our post-test and farewell. And of course, at 12:30, we will close and we will have our raffles. Today, we do have two special prizes that we will announce at the end. So stay tuned. So if you're here for a whole session, you will have a chance to receive one of our prizes today. So thank you for joining Super STEM Saturday with the Professional Development Institute. So we would love to know how you heard about our Super STEM Saturday. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna launch a poll. So you're gonna tell us how you heard about the event. Was it through social media, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn? Was it through the Professional Development Institute website? Was it word to mouth? Or was it from the Professional Development Institute newsletter? Or was it the Early Learning Coalition news blast? Or was it from a flyer or poster or through another means? If you did, please go ahead and specify. So let's take a look at our polls. Thank you so much. So while you're answering these, I'm gonna go ahead and present you to our presenter today. So let's go ahead and meet our presenter today. Without further ado, I will now introduce you to our esteemed presenter, Dr. Johayra Bouza. So Dr. Bouza is a distinguished developmental psychologist with over 20 years of experience in the field of educational psychology. She's a lifelong Cane, and as she earned her PhD from the University of Miami. As a researcher, Dr. Bouza has focused on factors that buffer the negative effect of poverty on children 0 to 5 years old. She is the daughter of Spanish-speaking Cuban immigrant who lived in poverty, and she felt a calling to better understand factors that buffer the negative effect of poverty, so children similar to her can succeed emotionally and academically. Her research focuses on examining the quality of interactions between educators and children, as well as educators and family. She has published her research in several reputable journals, such as Early Childhood Research Quarterly, and presented in over 50 projects in professional conferences. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and pass the mic to Dr. Johayra Bouza. Good morning, Dr. Bouza. Thank you for joining us for Super STEM Saturday.
Good morning, Pamela. And honestly, it is such a pleasure to be here. I was just talking earlier to Anna saying that I love supporting children all over the world, but I have to say my favorite ones are here in Miami-Dade County. All right, do I go ahead and get started? Is there any other logistical messages you need to give, Pamela?
No, that is all. We just want to thank everybody for joining us on this Super Saturday. And thank you to the PDI faculty for joining us and helping us make this a great production. And of course, thank you to our interpreters. Thank you, Dr. Johayra. The floor is yours.
Awesome. So I'm really excited to be here today. We're going to talk a lot about play-based learning, and we're going to talk about supporting the entire child with a focus on science, math, and reducing challenging behavior. And although these are the topics that we're going to be exploring more, I want to make sure that you guys know that you have the freedom to ask whatever questions that you may be thinking about and may be struggling. I want this time to be relevant and useful for you. So when you walk out of here tomorrow, you say, I am ready to be able to implement these things in the classroom. Before we get started, I'll do a quick introduction. Like Pamela said, I am a cane. And I just want to let you know what got me started in my career. So as I my family got to this country, I'm sure many of you experienced something similar where my family didn't understand the language and they didn't understand the culture and they didn't understand the way the school system worked. And I was so grateful that I had amazing teachers. Here you could see my kindergarten teacher, Ms. Zuby, and she really went out of her way to support my family and being able to understand the process, to be able to understand what are the experiences that they needed to have with me at home to set me up for success. And I was able to go on and get a full scholarship to the University of Miami, where I completed my bachelor's. And when I was there, I said, I really want to help children and families that were similar to me. And I was very grateful to meet Dr. Rebecca Shear and Dr. Daryl Greenfield. And I started working with them, doing research in Head Start and early Head Start classrooms. I started off just volunteering in the classroom. I went on to become an assistant teacher. I went on to be able to support the curriculum specialists and the coaches to be able to implement good strategies in the classroom. And I want to let you know that everything that all the work that I've ever done, for me, it has been really important to help children. As I said, my family is from Cuba, where we have an education system that unfortunately doesn't allow children to succeed. And so to be able to be here and to be able to support the children to be able to reach all their dreams is what I'm about. I am very proud to be born and raised in Hialeah. I hope that I have some representation from some Hialeah folks that are here helping children just like I was a couple of years ago. So what we'll do is that before we get started, I want to go ahead and give us an opportunity to do a pre-test. So we're going to go ahead and take 10 minutes, and you have two ways of being able to access the pre-test. You can access it through using the QR code. So if you get your phone and you put the camera right on it, it'll take you to the pre-test. If you're having trouble with that, it also has the link, and I will put the link in the chat for you all as well so you can access it. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to do the pre-test. We're going to take 10 minutes doing that, and we're going to either use our phone or use the link, whatever is most helpful to you. And I will scan the chat. Ooh, I see some representation here from Catholic Charities. Love Centro Mater's as well. Wonderful. Love to see that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take 10 minutes to do the pre-test. I'm going to put the link in the chat if you prefer to access it that way. It is right there on the chat. And I will also share my screen in case the QR code is easier for you all. If you're having any trouble accessing it, just let me know in the chat. All right, I see those responses coming in. I see there's representation from Gordon's school, from Lincoln Marti, Explorers Academy, the Creative Learning Center. You have about 2 more minutes. Remember that it's okay if you don't know the answers. That's why you're here, because you're going to be here to learn. So it is okay. All right, Steve's Academy, and you were able to get all your staff to be present. That is wonderful. Those group efforts is what makes these professional developments be able to be easier to implement in the classroom. Oh, Kids Small World is here. Norega's Kids Preschool. St. John's, you're right down the street. Little Big Planet, and all the staff is there too. Wonderful. Learn and Play. All right, we got 1 more minute. I see I'm getting flooded with these responses. Let's finish up those pre-tests so we can get started. Celebrity Kids. Oh, some Montessori schools are here. Oh, United Way is here. Hi, United Way friends. Tiny Kingdom, wonderful. All right. Thank you for all of you who completed that pre-test. We're going to do that same test in the end. I told you guys a little bit of who I was, and I'll let you know what our organization does. So our organization is JB Educational Consulting, and our mission is to empower educators and families. You all come in with so much. You have so many ideas and so much potential, and you are here because you want to be able to support children. And so I wanted our organization to just be here to empower you, to give you the confidence to work collaborative with you as a partner for you to be able to foster children's lifelong learning and academic success. And we'll talk a little bit, I already told you a little bit about me and who we are, and I want to hear a little bit about you. So I see many of you have already shared your name, what site you're from, which is wonderful. So I want to hear, how many years of experience? What's the amazing experience that we have here that we can capitalize on? And if you could just take a moment to reflect on your interactions with children this week, what is something, a positive moment that you had in the classroom this week? It can either be with a specific child, or it can be maybe an activity that you did that you felt went really, really well. And I'll give you an opportunity so you could share with me in the chat. So how many years you've been working, and a positive moment that you've had with children this week. Oh my goodness, 17 years. Pauline, wonderful. We're so grateful to be able to have so much amazing experience here. 20 years. I see teachers that taught in other countries as well. 28 years. 16 years. And what's great is about the work that we do is that children are children, right? No matter where they are. 10 years, 15 years, 19 years. From 1999, 25 years, 7 years. Oh, I see some of us are new. And thank you so much for being here, particularly to the teachers that are new in the classroom, that are looking for more ideas. We love to have you here as well. And don't think that because you're new, You don't have to contribute. You have a lot to contribute because you are positive and eager to be here. 16 years, 25 years, 23 years, wonderful, 18 years, 8 years. And you have 20 years in the same school, Jacqueline. Wonderful. So you really know that community really well. There's a lot of experience here. Awesome. Then we have a lot to capitalize on to be able to empower us and get ideas from each other. At the end of this session together, we're going to talk a little bit about educator well-being, and you'll be able to define what that is and explain why it's so important that you're taking care of yourselves. And we're going to get deep into talking about play-based learning. How is it that children are learning to play, and what are some of the things that they can learn? And I know, because I've worked in our community for a long time, that we're really worried about those challenging behaviors. And I want to talk a little bit about how implementing play-based learning can help us with some of that. And then last but not least, within our play-based learning, we're going to talk about how is it that we're going to be incorporating math skills and science skills, and how is it that we can promote that. And we'll share some ideas with each other. I'm sure you guys have many. So in terms of like the structure of our session today, we'll talk about why is it that you became an educator. I know some of us have been doing this for a long time, and some of us just got started. We all have our reasons. We'll talk about why is it that your own well-being impacts children's development. We'll talk about what are play-based experiences. What is it that they look like? And I'll be sharing with you guys different videos so you can see. And just so you know, the videos that I'll be sharing with you is almost all of them are educators that are here in Miami-Dade County working with very similar children than the ones that you're working with. And so I want you guys to see the amazing work that's happening here in our own community and be able to use that for ideas. We'll talk about how these play-based learnings are essential for children's development, and talk about how these math and science skills, why is it that we have to think about starting to implement those so early on? And what are the skills that children should be knowing, right? If we have a little infant, what does science skills mean for that little baby? All right, I just want to go over some ground rules in terms of some of our shared commitments that we'll be sharing with each other. One of the things that we want to do is we want to make sure that we are fully present. I know sometimes when we're doing online classes, we want to be over here, making lunch and putting the laundry, and I understand the temptation of that. But if we truly want to help the children that we're working with, we have to give our undivided attention to our professional development so we can take what we want from it to be able to help the children. So we want to be fully present. We also, I already see from our interactions that we're a chatty group. I love that. This is how you are really going to be able to share your beliefs, your ideas, your questions. And if you're thinking about it, other people are too. We want to make sure that we're respectful to others. So maybe somebody shares an idea, you're like, oof, that wouldn't work in my classroom. That's okay. That might work in other classrooms of other people on the call. So we want to be respectful to other people and when they share their ideas and their beliefs. And then here we're in a context that we're in a safe space. This is the time to be able to talk about our mistakes and our successes. Remember that every single time that we implement something in the classroom and it doesn't work, it's an opportunity for us to learn and say, oof, what is it that happened with that? And how can I make that experience better for myself and for children? So we're going to celebrate our mistakes here. Okay. A lot of the times educators, as they're going to professional development sessions, they look something like this, right? They're sitting down, they're bored, they are, doodling, and they're just listening, because the expectations for that session is for them to be passive observers, for them to be just listening and being lectured to. And I want to let you know that my sessions aren't like that. I know many of you, I see representation here from Catholic Charities, Centro Mate, the United Way, where I've done a lot of professional development. You know that the expectations for this session is to get into it, to make sure that you guys are engaging. So we're not going to look like that during this session. We are going, if we were doing this in person, we would be doing things with paint. We would be creating ramps. We would be engaging in all of that with our hands-on experiences and minds-on. But since we're doing this remote, we're going to adapt it. So our session, the expectations are to look something like this. You're going to be going ahead and typing. You're going to be writing some notes. You're going to be truly engaging in the material. And remember why we are spending our Saturday here together. We can be sleeping. We can be at a spa. We can be having brunch with our families, but we're here because we are trying to get our minds working for us to be able to implement experiences with our little kiddos that need so much to be able to be successful. And so we want to make sure that we are truly, truly engaging in the session and thinking about these concepts. And since engagement is very important and we want to learn what is happening in the session, I created a tool for you to help you do that. And the engagement and learning tool has been shared. Throughout the session, we're going to have moments where we pause and reflect. There's a really famous philosopher who says that we do not learn from our experiences. We actually learn from reflecting on those experiences. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. Many of us have the friend that dated a guy that was not very good, that he was displaying a lot of red flags at the beginning, and she had that experience. That relationship ended, and she went and dated another guy a couple of months later that was exactly the same, with the same red flags. What happened there is that she had the bad experience, but she didn't reflect from that experiences to be able to make different decisions. So we're not going to do that here. We're going to learn, and we're going to stop, and we're going to reflect on what we learned to be able to extract the key points of learning. And this engagement and learning tool, you can download it, and it's going to help us through different parts of the session to support you in writing your ideas, your thoughts, your plans for what you're going to implement in the classroom. Because when we walk out of here, we're going to walk out with a plan where on Monday morning, you can start doing things with children in your classroom. But you are going to do the things that work for you, the ideas that fit in, and you're going to adjust it. And so having this tool to track some of these things can help us make sure that we have something that helps us go into that classroom. So I highly suggest that you download this tool, and throughout the session, you'll see that I'm going to refer back to it multiple times to help you write notes. For those of us who, might not be very good with technology, and don't worry, I'm there with you. Sometimes I struggle too. You can go ahead and just get a notebook. Get a notebook and write some notes if you don't know how to download it. But make sure that you are writing things so you have a reference to be able to implement something in the classroom. If not, what happens is that what you learn in this session goes off into the air, and you're like, oh, that was a nice session. There's a lot of good examples here, but you forget. So use that tool to your advantage. All right, so let's get started. So why did you guys become an educator? And I will look at the chat here as you guys are sharing with me. Tell me, there's so many careers out there. You could have been a doctor. You could have been an engineer. You could have been a plumber. You could have been an electrician, but you decided to become an educator. Why did you make that choice? I know it wasn't the money. I know that you guys didn't want to become millionaires. So tell me the reason why you became an educator. All right. I see here we have some generational inspiration where their whole family is educators. A love for teaching. Love to work. Oh, yes, for money as well, right? You do get paid some. That's great. Love for children and teaching. Oh, shape the minds of kids. And I love that you said that, Anna, because honestly, especially during early childhood, that is what you're doing. You are the architect of children's brains. You are basically during the time that is the most crucial for brain development, where those neurons are communicating with each other, those synapses are being created. You're giving those experiences that create that. I see here having a good time with the curiosity of children, setting a foundation for children's success. So in all the responses that we got here, we see that somehow they are related to the love for children. And I want to remind you all that everything that we do in our field is for children. Maybe some things are a little bit disconnected. Maybe you're sitting down and filling out those lesson plans, or you're making sure that you have your little labels in the classroom to adhere to all our regulations, depending on what program you're in, whether it's Head Start or VPK. You're making sure that you're using the Galileo or the Gold system or the core to track your observations and be able. And I know sometimes you might feel like, oh my God, but that's so disconnected for kids. I always suggest to teachers, if you can make the connection between the work that you're doing and how it helps kids, you need to talk to your supervisors. Ask that question, because everything we do, when you are laying out that lesson plan, it's to help you be able to have interactions with children to support their learning. When you're setting up those labels across the classroom in those different languages, making sure that you're putting, balls and things like that, is to help give children exposure to literacy that's going to help them be able to learn how to read. So this session is no different. Everything that we talk about in this session is to be able to help you do your job as an educator. And in order for you to be able to do that, for you to be able to be the best educator you can be, you have to worry about you. You have to worry about your own well-being. So when we talk about educator well-being, we're talking about the general state of the educator, your physical health. How is it that you're feeling? How is it that, your heart, your health is? How are those lab results when you take out blood? You have your cholesterol high, your blood pressure, your sugar. All of that matters for you to be able to do your job. If you're not in the best health possible, you're going to have a harder time being able to provide the support that children need. You also need to be in the right mental space, right? If we are going through some mental health challenges where we're feeling very sad and down, it's going to be hard for us to go in that classroom and have the most fun experiences with kids. So we have to take care of our mental health to be able to do that. And we want to make sure that we take care of our social emotional happiness. How happy you are, how good you feel matters in the classroom. And we talked about how it's important, but there's a lot of research that documents why it's important. And I'm going to share with you some research findings. It's not just us talking about it theoretically. We see that teachers that have conditions, health conditions like high blood pressure, they have diabetes and it's not being taken care of, it's impacting their own well-being, them being able to have less absences in school, right? We know that every single time that an educator is not there, children feel a little disrupted. That's their caretaker. That's their emotional connection. And so there's research that documents that if the teachers have physical or mental health challenges, it's going to be hard for them to be able to feel good and to be able to be present for kids. We also know that when teachers are in this space that they're happy, that, they had a good nutritious meal, they have better ability to display positive behaviors. And they're happier at their job. They say, you know what, I like to come here. And they stay at their jobs longer. So there's longer job retention. We also know that these educators that take care of themselves, they're educators like you that are more likely to come to these professional development sessions, that are more likely to be the one taking those notes and thinking about what is it that I'm going to go apply in that classroom. And as you take these sessions, you're more likely to have professional growth and your own development. And all of that trickles down to the kids. The reason why you became an educator. You're going to have better quality interactions with those children. You're going to see the growth of the children in their social emotional skills, in their cognitive skills, in their ability to display language. And you're going to see that these children have more academic success. And not only today, but they have more academic success in kindergarten, in first grade, in second grade, in third grade. And all of that is going to trickle out to better professional success in their lives. So we'll look at these two teachers. The one to the left, she has her hands in her head. She's kind of having some problems at home with her husband. And, she's really worried that her mom is really sick and she hasn't had breakfast, hasn't drank water. This one here to the right, she actually got up early today. She did a quick 20-minute walk. She drank her coffee. She had her cafecito early in the morning with some of her friends at work, and they chit-chatted about all the fun things that they were doing over the weekend. And now she comes into the classroom and she is talking to children and she is engaging with them as they're getting ready to start their day. Which group of children do you think is going to benefit most in this classroom? Do you think is the teacher to the left with the hands on her head? Or do you think it's the one to the right where that teacher's smiling? I see Maritza had some cafecito this morning. Me too. The one on the right, Eunice? The one on the right, the children there are going to get a better experience. They're going to be able to benefit more from the interactions. They're going to love coming to school. One of the things that breaks my heart is when children say, I hate going to school. Because I'm like, what is happening in that classroom? Is that an educator, one that's not taking care of herself? And so I want to remind you that sometimes as wives or as husbands, as daughters, as sons, as mothers, fathers, we forget to take care of ourselves. But we can't forget to do that because we cannot fill from an empty cup. We're not going to be able to be a better mother, be a better father, be a better educator if we don't fill from our cup. So I want to take a moment, and hopefully you already did something today, like maybe drink a little bit of cafecito, for you guys to share with me, what have you done to take care of yourself? What have you done for you this week? And it could be something small, like you had your little coffee in the morning, your Cuban cafecito. It can be that you decided to take 3 deep breaths. It can be that you had a prayer, that you drank, you made sure to drink your water. And I see some of you already sharing exercise, eating healthy. You did your hair. Absolutely, Gabriela, making sure that you're looking beautiful makes you feel good. Walking every single day. Yes, meditation. That is a wonderful way. Sharing with God, engaging in prayer. Had a good night's rest. Sleep is so important. Having breakfast, yes, 20-minute walk every day. And I'm glad that you guys are sharing things that you are doing every single day, because that means it's part of your daily routine. See, some of you are running, having fun with the kids in the classroom. Yeah, that can be a way of taking care of yourself. Doing things, arts and crafts. Oh, you're going to do a 5K in Doral. Wonderful. Yes, they did the St. Jude's run in Doral this morning. I wanted to go, but I messed up my ankle. Reading a book. Yes, all of these things are great ways of taking care of yourself. And it is important that you do it every day so you can be a better educator. And so at the beginning of the day, you want to check in with yourself and you want to say, what is your mood today? It's happened to all of us where we've woken up and be like, oof, today's a bad day. I woke up, in Spanish, there's a saying that it's like, my hair is on the other side. Tengo el moño virado, right? You woke up in a bad mood. That's important for you to know, because you need to know, is today a day I need to take a couple of deep breaths before I walk into the classroom? Because those kiddos that you work with every day, they're not at fault for our bad moods. They can't pay the consequences for our bad moods. So we got to check in with ourselves and think about what we can do before we walk into that classroom. How can you prepare for your day? Maybe it's listening to music and putting your favorite song. Maybe you listen to La Vida es un Carnaval, Celia Cruz song that's very popular, very upbeat. Or maybe it's a song that kind of makes us relax and makes us think about it, makes things about our day. Wonderful. I see here. Think about taking a moment to interact to think about what you're going to do before you interact with children that's going to help you have better interactions. What is it throughout the day that I need to make sure that maybe I need to take a short break? And this is why it's so important for both teachers to work together in the classroom. Listen, I've been in the classroom. When a kid just finished throwing a block at you and biting you, you're not going to have the best interactions. So sometimes that's the moment to say to your co-teacher, hey, I need to use the restroom for a second, because you need to gather yourself again. Are those things that happen in the classroom? Yes, they happen. And we know that. And it is okay for you to feel frustrated and upset in that moment. But we got to regulate our own emotions before continuing our day, because those kids in that classrooms, they're communicating something. And we're going to talk a little bit about challenging behaviors. But knowing when it's time for you to take a short break is very, very important. Maybe you need that 3:05 cafecito break around 3 p.m. every day to regather your thoughts. And you want to make your classroom a place that you are happy, that you feel calmer, and that it represents you as well. I know many times we put pictures on the wall of children's families to make them feel more at home. How about the teachers' families, right? If seeing a picture of your babies makes you calmer, then put that picture up on the wall. If you love the University of Miami, go Canes. Yesterday, we won a great football game, one of the most exciting of the season. Decorate your classrooms with those U's that make you feel at home. If it helps you feel better to have a picture of a beach and kind of mentally go there when you're having a bad moment, go ahead and put that. Put things in your classroom that make it comfortable, because you are also part of that family classroom. And the same way that the children have to feel comfortable, you have to feel comfortable in that space. And so remember, I told you guys we're going to have these pause and reflect moment. We're going to take a moment to pause and reflect. If you were able to download your engagement and learning tools document, you could write it on there. If you weren't, don't worry, you could write it on a piece of paper. But I want you to think about your daily routine. You get up, you go to work, whatever it is that you do. And I want you to write something new that you're going to make sure to do this week, and that you're going to incorporate it part of your daily routine that you are going to do to take care of you. So take a moment and think about it. It can be taking 3 deep breaths in the morning. It can be drinking some water. I held it up, but the filter didn't show you, but here you go, drinking some water. It can be having an extra little coffee. What is the plan that you're going to write down on that paper? And the reason I'm asking you guys to write it down is because research has shown that when we write down our plans, we are more likely to do them. So write it down. I see here, go to the gym. Yes, go to the gym is a great thing for you to be able to do. And remember, if you don't have time to do that, you could walk for 10 minutes outside. Drink more water. That's a great plan that you're going to do. Take walks in the morning. Yes, be able to go outside, get fresh air. That's so important for our health. Doing a prayer every single morning. Wonderful. Okay. Daily devotions, relaxing. Drinking morning coffee in peace, very important. Dancing, yes. Moving your body in that way. Sticking to the yoga routine, nutritious meals, walks, dancing, breakfast. Wonderful. Okay, so make sure you write that down. And at the end, we're going to have a bunch of things written down that we're going to make sure that we're going to be able to do. And it is not selfish to take care of yourselves. It is crucial for you to be able to be a good educator, a good mother, a good wife. That is how we become better, by taking care of ourselves. Okay. Educators need to support their entire selves. You need to go to those doctor's appointments. You need to take those walks. You need to have moments of relaxation, because we are expected as educators to support the whole child. You're not supporting just the students. You are supporting an entire child. But what is it that we mean by that when we say whole child? Let's talk about that a little bit. So we know that children are multifaceted beings. They are different aspects of their development. And we define different parts of their development in different ways. So one way that we support children is that we look at their social emotional development, meaning how is it that they are connecting with their educators? How is it that they are, how is it, with their educators, with their parents, with your other children in the classroom? How is it that they're regulating their emotions, right? Are they able to identify, I feel happy today, I'm excited? And how do they communicate that? We also have their language and literacy. What are the words that they understand? What is it that they're able to speak? What is it that they're able to, what are the letters that they can identify? And what are the sounds that they know associated with those letters? We also have scientific inquiry, which we will talk a lot more today about. And we have mathematical thinking. And we're going to get into those a lot today, so I won't go over it right now. I love that. P for Publix. Making sure that our language and literacy activities are connected to children's real life matters. So those connections, like remember the letter P for Publix, helps children be able to be like, oh, this is an important information for my own life. That is a great way to support children's language and literacy. We also have social studies. How do they become part of their community? How is that they understand the different roles and their own culture and their identity within that culture? We also have creative expression through art. Children, as you guys probably know, in that free play time, they are engaging in pretend play. They could do a play. They can make sure to do drawings. They can sing. They have a lot of creative ways in the arts to be able to express themselves. We also have their physical development. How is it that they're moving in the classroom? Do they crawl? Do they walk? How do they use their fine motor skills? Is this a child that is able to hold a pencil? What is their grip like? And then we have approaches to learning, which honestly is one of my favorites. And we're going to be incorporating approaches to learning when we talk about science and math. But how is it that they approach a new task? Are they motivated? Are they curious? You know, is this the kid that when they're doing that hard puzzle, they're like, I got to do it. I'm very persistent to make it happen. And we know that children that display these approaches to learning in a positive way, that's going to help them learn all other aspects of development. So like I said, we're going to be focusing a lot in the scientific inquiry and mathematical thinking. But since we are supporting the whole child, we're going to integrate some of these other ones in parts of our conversations. Okay, so we're going to get into play now. And how is it that it benefits the whole child that we just talked about? So in the research world, there is a very famous researcher. Her name is Dr. Kathy Hirschpathik, and her colleague Roberta, they wrote an amazing book a couple of decades ago, and they called it Play Equals Learning. And throughout the years, I've heard a lot of their talks. We've gotten to present together in different research conferences. And one of the things that she always shared is that, yes, when children play, they learn a lot. There's a lot of learning in their play. But what they have shared with me is that they regret naming their book that, because in reality, it's facilitated play equals more learning. And that facilitated play is facilitated through the educator, through the caregiver. And so as children are playing, it's not that we sit back and we say, okay, this is the time to like text my friend to see where we're going this weekend, or this is the time to, go ahead and write down our lesson plans, because children are just playing. Just playing is a phrase that I wish I could eliminate from the world. Play is the time that they're learning. This is the time for the educator to go in there and observe what they're doing. I saw Madeline was sharing, observing how is it that they are playing and supporting that exploration, giving them ideas of like, what do you think is going to happen when? So they can predict and saying, how can we test that hypothesis to get them to think about those experiments? So that facilitated play is the one that equals better learning. And that's why your role is so, so important. We know that when we're having this play-based learning, and as children are engaging in the play, not all play is play-based learning. Because that play that I was talking to you about, that the kids are over there playing in each area and the teacher's over here writing down notes, or maybe she's over here creating some amazing arts and crafts for a party, but the kids are over there, the teacher's over here. Those children are learning, but by themselves. But when we talk about play-based learning, we're talking about that facilitated play. So how is it that we can make the play that children are having in our classroom be play-based learning? How can children really capitalize? We need these 5 components to make it play-based learning. We need it to be child-led. That means that children are directing their own learning. They're deciding what curiosities they have. They're making that decision. Am I going to be playing with this spoon and try to put it in this bottle? Or am I going to be over here playing with the sand, right? They are making decisions about what they're curious about, what they're interested in. And if they are being able to lead some of that experiences, then they are going to be able to have more learning. This doesn't mean that the teacher just goes hands off and everything that the kid wants to do, she's like, okay, oh, you want to switch now from the beach to looking over at this other book, and you want to switch over here to the bottle? Not that. That doesn't mean, that's not the only way to do child-led. Child-led can be a balance where you say, oh, you want to talk about the beach? And we're doing a water experiment? Wow. You know what? You're right. The beach has water. We're going to keep looking at the water here and seeing if it's a solid or a liquid. And we're going to talk about what is your experience at the beach connected to this experience. That's still child-led. So when we say child-led, it doesn't mean that children are chaotically around the classroom. You can have your agenda of what you want to do, but you want to be flexible so children are playing and being able to lead aspects of that. You also want to make sure that children are actively engaged. And I've seen this many times when I start coaching teachers. We're going to do a play experience. I'm going to grab the sand as the educator, and I'm going to show you how you play with the sand. And you're going to sit there and you're going to watch me. When children are passively observing, that's not active engagement. And we know active engagement is necessary for them to be able to have the richest play-based learning. So we want them to have hands-on experiences. They want to be touching stuff. We want them to talk. We want them to engage in a way that's hands-on and minds-on. We want them to think and say, how is it that I can do that? Or why is it that that happens? We also want them to have social interactions. One of the things that makes me so sad is sometimes when people say, oh, these kids, they're just always talking and not paying attention. If your kids are talking to each other, especially during these ages, wow, they are learning so much from those interactions. You want them to collaborate with each other. You want them to work towards a common goal together. Maria Montessori said that play is a child's work. And that is so true. If we think about what it takes to work, right? You as an educator, you have to communicate with your co-teacher. You have to talk to your director. You have to come to these trainings and be able to have these interactions to learn from them. So social interactions are important for having the richest play-based learning. You want children to talk to each other and work together. I see here, Idalia, bringing in that children can bring in their own life experiences. Absolutely. You want them to make those connections between their real life and be able to share that in some of those social interactions. You know, earlier when we said P for Publix, the reason we know that a child has been to Publix is because they've shared that with us, and we've given them an opportunity to have bi-directional conversations. And that is important for these play-based learning. We also have problem solving and critical thinking being a very important component of play-based learning. And this refers to children thinking creatively and being able to have, can I solve a problem this way? What happens if I do this? How can I figure this out in this moment? And I always advise teachers, you can create the problems in the classroom. Children face problems every day, right? When they're building a tower, it falls. When they are figuring out, I want to write things down with this pencil. How is it that I get this pencil to be able to write down my drawing? That is a problem. But you can create other problems too. You can walk in from playground time and the co-teacher removed one chair and you say, oh my goodness, let's count. How many are we? Oh, we're 8. We only have 7 chairs. I have a big problem. What can I do to solve my problem? Let's brainstorm together. And those kids will come up with ideas to solve that problem in a controlled environment where you know where that extra chair is. And as children are practicing these problem solving skills, they're learning. So then when they face the problem of, hey, there's not that many chairs, then that child knows how to solve the problem without the educator's help. So we create these play-based experiences and help scaffold children to critically think and solve a problem. And last but not least, and I have to say this is so important, part of our jobs as educators is to make sure that children are having fun in the classroom. Children are enjoying the process of learning. I have a friend of mine who she was very adamant about their child learning to read. Her child right now is about 8 years old, and he learned to read when he was 3 years old. And she was so proud, but it was every day giving him flashcards, every day stressing him out about reading. There wasn't a lot of fun that was going on. They didn't learn in a fun, play-based way. And today, yes, that child does excel in those standardized tests, but he hates reading, hates it. He doesn't want to grab a book. He doesn't see the value. It feels like a punishment to him because it wasn't taught to him in a play-based way. And so what use is it, right, for a child to know how to do the skills if they hate it every single day? And it's something that they don't want to do. I'd rather a child learn how to read when they're 5 or 6 or 7, and they are excited about books and they're curious about the information that they can learn. And they say, hey, you know what, teacher? I want to look about the book of the butterfly because I want to see that pretty picture and I want to see the process of the butterfly. You want them to be excited about learning. So here, I'm going to share with you guys, this is a teacher that's working here in Miami-Dade County. I want to remind you that we are always very respectful in when we talk about our educators. So there might be some things in this video that you say, oof, that wasn't perfect, or that's not the way that I would do it. And that's okay. But we want to communicate about them in a very respectful way. You guys are educators. You know what it's like to be video recorded in the classroom. And those teachers that I'm sharing with you today, they were brave enough to be video recorded and also give us consent to say, you guys can use this for professional development reasons. And I am so grateful for them to be brave enough to do that, to know that this could be shown to other teachers. And so we're always going to talk about educators in the most respectful way possible because they're putting themselves in a very vulnerable position. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to share this video with us right now. Give me 1 minute so I can pull that video up. And what's happening in this video is that this educator is trying out this play-based learning. And I want us to look at this video and think about the elements that we talked about, right? It being child-led, it being making sure that there's active involvement. And as we talk about these elements, try to see if you could identify how this teacher did it in this experience. All right, so without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and play it. Oh, and for this video, I wasn't able to do it for all the videos, but for this video, you could see that it has the Spanish in the bottom of the subtitles. I apologize if the Spanish isn't perfect. I did it very quickly, but I did want to make sure to try to incorporate that. And for our Haitian Creole speakers, I love that you're here. Unfortunately, I do not know Haitian Creole, but the interpreter can help hopefully translate what's going on there. It's only about a minute. So we're looking at this video, we're seeing how this amazing educator incorporated play-based learning for these kids. So let's go ahead and watch it.
Oh, it's water, and water is what color? It's clear. Do it have a smell? You drink it. Smell? You wanna smell it? Water doesn't have a smell. No, but this is one of the things we're gonna be using, it's water, see? All right, now I'm gonna show you what's next. Yeah, that's okay, it's just water. One at a time. You see? What is that? Touch it.
Let's go back for a second. I clipped this video so you can see another little piece there.
See? What is that? Touch it. Poquito, Chad. That's okay. Feel it. Feel it. Wanna feel it? Touch it, Sarah. Touch it. See? Now look at your hand. Is it white? What color is it? Jasmine, Victoria? White. It's not liquid like water, it's powder. You see? It sticks on your hand. And water didn't stick to your hand, right? It's harder to take off, huh? What you feel, Victoria? Look, what you feel? How does it feel? You don't know?
All right, so let's think about that video. I did the audio as loud as possible. So I know some of you had to read it. Hopefully you were able to at least get a little bit from it. So let's think about what you saw in that video. And then let's go back to these components, right? Why was that play-based learning? There's plenty of times that we just take out some water and sands for kids and the kids are playing over there. They're playing. But here, play-based learning was going on. I see Marita was sharing, she asked a lot of open-ended questions, right? How does it feel? What else did we notice there? That they were having fun. They were actively engaged in touching things, seeing their hands. You could see that they were smiling. Someone said that you could see their facial expressions as they were exploring. She took time to listen to their answers. Thank you for sharing that, Anna. That is so important. Taking the time to pause. There are so many educators over there that ask the most amazing questions to kids, but then they answer it right after. They don't wait and pause for that kid to say it. And that is how we are better supporting those critical thinking skills. The children were engaged. They were touching, they were talking, they were feeling, they were smelling. They were engaged in that. I see a teacher was sharing that children love water. And one of the reasons I was selective about the videos I'm showing here is because sometimes educators think, oh, you know, I don't have the coolest material. You don't need it. You don't need the coolest material. Water, sand will do the job. It's about how we use those materials. I'm going to show you guys a little video where there's some technology that was incorporated there. And that's great. If you could do it, great. But you have, with the resources that you have, you can incorporate play-based learning. The children were interested. Yes, absolutely, that's Mari. They were interested. They were using their hands. And the teacher, someone said it earlier, the teacher's there, engage with them, play. She's not like, oh, it's outside time, so it's time to take a break. No, she's like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to have them explore because this is a good time. And you know why? I'll let you guys in on a secret. This educator probably didn't want her classroom to get all wet. So she was smart about it. And she said, let me use the outside time because as they're exploring with water and sand, it can get a little messy. And I don't want to have to deal with picking up the floor. This was an educator that was thinking ahead. So she used that outside time instead of bringing that into the classroom that maybe she didn't want. I love messes, and messes can be fun if the kids are helping you pick up. And there's a lot of learning in messes as well. But I know some of us might not feel comfortable with water and sand all over their floor. There's different ways of doing that. The teacher was referring to children by name. Yeah. And she was like, oh, Victoria, do you want to smell it? And one of the things that I love that this teacher did is that, you know, little Victoria, she doesn't know a lot of English. And this teacher went out of her way, even though she doesn't know Spanish, to learn a couple of little phrases here and there to make that child feel comfortable in the classroom. All right, so we're going to look at these experience with infants, okay? This teacher, she wanted to have, she got spaghetti and she boiled it and she added food coloring to it and she put that out for the kids. She did it outside. She didn't want the mess of spaghetti everywhere in her classroom. And she's having the children explore it. And by the way, while we're having these conversations, you have a section in your engagement tool that you can take notes of some of these ideas. Maybe this is some activities that you want to do. Maybe it's not. Maybe you just want to think about how you make things child-led. But I want you to take the notes that are helpful for you to be able to do experiences that are similar to this. So we'll look at these components, right? And we're just seeing a picture. It's not a video. Tell me, what is it that this educator could do to make sure that this experience is child-led? Let's think about child-led first. What can she say and do with the kids to make sure that children have a voice in this experience? She can ask them about the different colors. Yeah, she could ask them to see what is the color that you like? Which one do you want to play with? I see here that she could make some predictions, have them make some predictions like, what do you think is going to happen when we touch it? How do you think it's going to feel? And those little kiddos are not going to be able to respond, right? But that's okay. We're going to talk about how like it's still important to ask questions. We can make connections to their lives. Thank you, Tamara. So do you like to eat pasta? And one of the things that I love about doing food experiences with infants is that if they stick it in their mouth, it doesn't matter. We know that young children are going to stick things in their mouth, and that is okay. And so rather than using things that they can't stick into their mouth, I want to give them those opportunities. Sandra was sharing that we can observe them. How is it that they react to the spaghetti, and then we can follow them? Just describing that, oh, I see you're holding the green spaghetti. You're supporting their development there. So these kids are actively engaged. They're touching, they're smelling, they're seeing. They're also doing it next to each other, right? So it's a social interaction they can have with their caregiver and with their friends. I saw America was sharing prediction, right? So as we're asking them that, they're critically thinking like, how is it gonna feel? Mind you, they're little infants, so they might not answer, but that doesn't mean they're not thinking. And they're having a good time. I also want to make sure to make the connection that when children are having a good time, the only facial expression is not smiling and laughter. These little kids are not necessarily smiling, but you could see they're kind of looking at things. They are being able to absorb what is going on. Asking questions like, how does it feel? They are also, like Marisol shared, using their fine motor skills as they're gripping things, and we can explore the texture. And all of these are great ideas. I'm going to share some additional ones with you guys. The educator can say, this is spaghetti. Look at all the colors. Which color do you want to play with? So giving the child the choice. We can also incorporate things like, do you want more in your hands or do you want less? We can ask them, like was shared, how does it feel? We can ask them, how does it taste? We can introduce new vocabulary. Squishy is when something is soft and we could squeeze it. How does it feel squishy? Does it feel squishy? Let's test it. Oh, look, it's very soft. It's squishy. We could say slippery when it slides around, right? It's sliding all around our fingers. Let's try to see if it's slippery. Yeah, it's slippery. We could also say, put the spaghetti up, put the spaghetti down, and move it all around. That is math skills. It's positional words, up, down, around. And it's fun and it's play-based and the kids are into it. We can actually encourage them to look at each other. We know that young infants, they're not interested in one another yet, but we can start supporting that and saying, look at your friend Danny. He's grabbing the spaghetti with his fingers. Do you want to try that too? Or we could say, Danny, look at Jason. He's playing with the orange spaghetti and you are playing with the green spaghetti. So you're just describing what they're doing. You're teaching them new words. You're getting them actively involved. You could make sure you're supporting their problem solving and critical thinking. What are different ways that we could play with our spaghetti? Can we put it up? Can we put it down? What happens when we pull it? Oh, it broke. Our spaghetti broke. So doing those things, I love you guys are mentioning cause and effect. That is scientific thinking, right? What made the spaghetti break? Oh, when we pulled it, it caused it to break. We stretched it too far. Sonia, look, it wiggles like a worm. It wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And so notice the tone of voice that I'm using. Notice the words that I'm using. We want to make this fun and engaging for kids because when they're having fun, they're smiling, they're laughing, they're focused. And when they're having fun, they are learning. If I was up here in this presentation and I was like, so when you do play-based learning, you tell a child, this is spaghetti. Look at all the colors. What color do you want to play with? You guys wouldn't be gaining much from that experience. I'm just reading from a bunch of slides. And so I always tell educators, you are entertainers. You are putting on a show, right? You want to go in there. You want to connect with those kids. You want to engage them. You want to ask them critical thinking skills. You want to have these social interactions. You want to get them into it. You want to get them excited and motivated to be able to engage with this learning. And it always has to be fun. When children are not having a good time, what starts to happen in the classroom for you experienced teachers? What happens when you don't get their attention well? What are the things that they do when we don't actively engage them? They get bored. And when they get bored, challenging behaviors happens. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that and make those connections, but you could start seeing those connections here. As you're engaging in these play-based experiences, as those kids are into it with the spaghetti and they're grabbing things and putting it up and down and moving it all around and they're stretching it, then you are making sure that they're not hitting each other, that they're not biting, that they are not going and trying to flip over the tree trunk over there and put rocks on their head or throwing rocks at their friends. So as you're keeping them engaged, you are reducing some of those things. And so I want to remind you again, take notes from our conversation. You don't have to plan to do this spaghetti activity. You could plan to do something else. But think about the questions that we gave as examples as you could incorporate it in. And in this play-based learning, they're learning across all different types of the domains that we talked about. So when we think about building positive relationships with adults, that's part of social emotional development. These kids are making eye contact with their teacher. Their educator is giving them choices so they feel more connected. The educator could be asking them, do you like it or no? Do you want the green one or the orange one. She's trying to get to know them. She's trying to connect with them. We talked about her introducing new language. That's part of language and literacy, that we're introducing words like squishy and slippery. We are encouraging some of those scientific inquiry skills. Using their senses is part of the components of scientific inquiry. So when we're asking them questions on how does it feel, what does it taste like, what does it smell like, that is supporting them exploring their world, and it's going to make them a better scientist. When we talked about those spatial relations, up, down, moving it all around, put it to our right, put it to our left, that is mathematical thinking. All right, so we did it for an infant experience. And so now we're going to do it for a toddler pre-K experience. So let's look at this situation. This is an educator. She's been reading a book about the aquarium, right? And now she's thinking, what experience can I do that's connected to that? That's more hands-on, that's more play-based. And she's like, oh, you know what? Let's build a aquarium. Let's do it with our blocks. So think about, she didn't just give them the blocks and walk away. No, she's there with them. How can she make this a play-based experience? Think about these different components. What are the things that she could say and do in that block experience as she's building this aquarium that is related to these things? And I'll give you guys a moment as you answer that in the chat. How can she make this block experience about aquariums make sure it's play-based learning, not just they're playing by themselves over there? She can ask them, what shapes are we using? She can ask them a question to start to get them to engage in that. And Crystal, that's a great idea, because she can make connections to some experience that maybe she talked about shapes early on, so she could integrate their learning. Oh, I love this. She can help say, what do we do? What are we going to do first? What are we going to do second? What materials are we going to use? That is planning with kids. A lot of the times the educators think that they need to come up with a whole plan by themselves. And you always need to have a backup plan, right? So when I was developing this for you guys, I didn't know what people were going to say when we were talking about ideas for that spaghetti. I had here as a backup, I planned. But I gave you guys opportunities to share, and you mentioned a lot of the same things. We want to do the same things with kids. We're going to plan it. We're going to have a backup plan if they don't say something, but we want to give them opportunities so they can say, because they have a lot of ideas, and that process is what leads them to engage more in that critical thinking. Oh, you could talk about the sounds. You could get the block and say, how do we make this make a sound? What do we do with it? Oh, tap, 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 tap. Ooh, it makes a sound. How about if we tap it here, next to our easel? Does it make a different sound? I wonder why. You could ask questions to connect it to the book. Yeah, you could say, so we learned that whales are bigger than dolphins. So if we were going to build a aquarium, how big does our whale tank have to be? Is it bigger or smaller than the dolphin tank? And you're making those connections with them. You could help them build the structure, right? Have them brainstorm. How are we going to build it? What are the animals that we're going to include in our aquarium? And you know what? During this time, a kid might say a giraffe. And you say, oh, you want to include a giraffe in our aquarium? Let's look back at our book. Let's see our giraffes. Did we notice any giraffes in this book? We didn't. But you know what? Maybe our aquarium is a super cool aquarium that's a aquarium and a zoo. And so in this part, we're going to include the giraffes. And this part is going to be our zoo part. And we're going to build this aquarium here, but we're going to have a zoo too where we put the giraffe. So we're giving them an opportunity to be able to incorporate their ideas in a way that they feel good about it. And it's also in a way for them to learn, oh, that's right. Giraffes are in the zoo and not in the aquarium. But notice that I didn't say, no, you're wrong. Giraffes don't go here. No, no, no. I helped them have the connection of saying, I love giraffes. I want to put them here. They go in the zoo. So we're going to put it next to the aquarium. I'm incorporating their ideas. I'm letting it be child-led in a way that they're still critically thinking and that they're getting the correct information. We could talk about where they live. If they live in water, absolutely. Ask them questions like, what goes inside a aquarium? And I noticed that you guys are already thinking about this importance of asking questions. And for play-based learning, questions play a crucial role. We're going to talk about that later on as well. We could talk about how we can be fish together and incorporate some movement, right? As we're going to be swimming and swimming and swimming to get our blocks, particularly for those kids that need to get the wiggles out, incorporating those wiggles as part of your play-based experience is going to reduce challenging behaviors in the classroom. And I want you guys to know that when you're doing play-based experiences, it takes a little longer. And that's okay. I'd rather things take longer and for there to be a process where everyone's learning that we build this amazing aquarium and we do it very quickly, but the children were not part of the process. I know that you as educators, you can build, educators are the most creative beings and they have these amazing arts and craft structures. And that is wonderful. But if the kids are not a process of that and it's not within a play-based experience, then are we meeting our real goals of being able to support children? We have to think about that. You want to be very dynamic. You want to express yourself with your hands and you want to make sure your facial expressions, your nonverbal cues are communicating these things. Thank you, Marisha. All right. So here, thank you for sharing those ideas. We can ask children when we're being child-led, what part of this aquarium do you want to build? What animal do you want to live in that part of this aquarium? We can ask, what blocks do you want to use? Where are you going to put them? Are you going to put them on the top or the bottom? What happens if we put the small block at the bottom and the heavier at the top? What happens? I wonder. Let's test that out. We want to build a solid foundation. We can introduce more vocabulary or review what we had in our book. Oh, you see, you have the dolphin in your hand. You're going to build the pool for the dolphin. You see this fin at the top? Remember, that's called the dorsal fin. It starts with the letter, can you help me? What letter? Dorsal fin. And then if that child doesn't say it, then you help them and you say, let's go look at our book. With the parts of the dolphin, see that letter? Dorsal fin, dorsal fin. It's the letter D. And you might even tell the child if they're in pre-K, that they're a little older, you might say, you know what, in our aquarium, we're gonna need signs because the people are not gonna know where the whale is and when their dolphin is. So you know what, let's get our little sticky notes and let's write the first letter of the name of the animal as signs so people don't get lost in our aquarium. And now you've incorporated language and literacy into there. We can have social interactions and encourage them to do it, not only with us as we're asking these questions, but we can say, Danny, I see that you're building a structure of dolphins and your friend Jason is building one of whales. Why don't you guys talk to each other? Talk about the plan. Are you going to make it bigger or smaller? We could engage in problem-solving skills. How do we make sure that animals are happy in their areas? What is it that we need? What is it that we make sure to have so animals do not get hungry? What do we make sure to have so they can have fun? What toys do dolphins play with? How can we put toys in there with them? We could say, how can we keep the water clean? Do we put a lot of animals in there? Animals poop. One of the things about kids is they love to talk about poop. So when you bring that in, their faces start smiling. You say, they poop. How are we going to get all the poop out? What are we going to do? Oh, we are going to need to make sure that we have cleaners for the pool. We're going to make sure to put liquid in that water so it can stay clean. What do they eat? We need to make sure that we buy all that food. Maybe as part of your aquarium, you have a food storage area for all the animals. And notice how we can get creative with kids as we're making them critically think and capitalize on their ideas. I see here, what other roles do we need of people in this aquarium? Do they need a doctor? What is a doctor for animals called? Oh, a veterinarian. Yes, we need veterinarians. And we want to make sure that we're having fun with them as we're doing this. We want to use our silly voices. We could pretend to be different animals. We could get to the dolphin and say, I'm a dolphin. Where's my food? I want to grab my food. And smile and laugh and be a kid with them. Make sure that you are having a good time. I see here we're going to even need a chef. Thank you, Sandra. Somebody needs to cook for the staff. Somebody needs to cook for these animals. So we're going to need a chef on call that we're part of our staff. We might even, depending on the child's age, if we're doing something with preschoolers, we could even do a budget. We're going to need a budget to pay all these people. Where are we going to get that money from? How much are we going to charge in our aquarium for people to go in? And this type of creative way of them learning gets them excited about doing it. And you don't build this aquarium in one day. Maybe you build this aquarium across a month. You decide a small piece of your classroom that has a table that has this aquarium little by little, and you engage in it a little bit every single day. And you have these conversations and these learning with children as you're letting them be creative and incorporating learning into it. I see here Luna sharing that children enjoy those small interactions, and they do, and that's what's important to them. They enjoy it, and they can start thinking about, oh my goodness, I'm gonna need a budget when I open up a business. And these are the skills that you guys are teaching them when they're 2, 3, 4, 5. Imagine if when we were that age, we got these same play-based experiences. When we started thinking about things like a budget, and we started thinking about things, oh my God, I'm going to need to make things bigger or smaller, and I'm going to need to plan, and I'm going to need to do all these things. Cynthia was sharing, how many gallons do we need in that pool? And we could connect another experience to that where they have a gallon and they have a cup and they see how many cups are in a gallon. We're going to need to figure that out so we could know what we put in our pool. Notice how much rich mathematical thinking and science we've incorporated just as a doing a play-based experience that we connected to a book. These kids are really learning in our classroom. Guadalupe was sharing that when we incorporate the knowledge in their play, they're going to be able to connect it more. They're really learning to be able to have all these skills. And they're doing things across all these different aspects of development. We could incorporate things like geometry. When we say, what shape will the dolphin area be? Why are we choosing that shape? We could do things like cause and effect. We say, what happens when we put the big block on top of the smaller block? We are incorporating all these amazing areas. Sometimes when we think about teaching children, and I have a picture, people think about this. Kids are going to be sitting down. They're going to be listening to what I have to say, and they're learning. There might be a little bit of learning. You know what? Maybe some of those kids, they just have a gift for really paying attention. But I'll tell you what, I'm one of those kids in the back that's looking around thinking, what can I play with now? I'm bored. I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm not paying attention, even if I'm sitting down quietly. And that's why we have to be the educator that provides these experiences so all kids can learn and they can get the most of it. This doesn't mean that we never have a time where we sit down and talk about things. Maybe we do. But the more things that we do in our small group areas, in free play, we know that research has shown those are the best ways for children to learn. So we want to get away from these old ideas of we're going to sit kids down, they're going to be quiet, they're going to listen the whole time, because that is really hard for all of us. If right now you guys are not engaging in the chat and you're not taking your notes and I'm not, and we're doing things that are boring, you guys are not going to get the same thing from this experience. So we want to do for the children what we would like educators to do for us. And so we need to make sure to incorporate these experiences, and they're not really learning their best that way. And we talked about play-based experiences, and there's a lot of different kinds of play-based experiences, but some of my favorite ones are sensory play, because they are one of the easiest ones to incorporate active engagement. And we saw some of them. Some of these activities that are going to stimulate one or more of children's senses that they're going to be able to explore, and that it's child-centered, child-led, right? So when we talk about our senses, it's children being able to hear, being able to see, being able to smell, being able to touch, and being able to taste. Not all of them are going to, all the senses are going to be incorporated in every single experience. Some things we don't taste, like shaving cream, right? Shaving cream is a great sensory experience, but we don't taste shaving cream. It doesn't taste very good. So we don't encourage the children to do that. They might taste it, and that's why we use non-toxic shaving cream, but we don't encourage it. But we can encourage touch during a shaving cream experience. We can incorporate sights. We could smell it, and we could even do sounds as we're splashing it, where it's really, really quiet. Let's hear it. What happens if I splash it soft? How about if I splash it hard? How about if I do that with water? Is the sound different or is the sound the same? And so you want to encourage these senses. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll now. And I want us to think about this teacher, right? And everything that we've learned about sensory play and play-based experiences, I'm going to launch a poll, and I want you guys to look at the responses and choose the one that you think is the best sensory experience. So I'm going to stop my share for a second. I'm going to go to my polls. Give me 1 second as I pull that up. Go to my polls. I am going to go back here, and I am going to launch my poll. Okay, 1 second. Hold on. Here we go. So I'll give you guys to read through. Go ahead and answer that poll.
You're muted, Johayra. Johayra, you're muted.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Can you
I
hear
know,
me now?
Yes, yes. A lot of
Okay.
people are saying they didn't get it. Not sure what happened.
Do you see it launched on your end?
I do. I do see it
do.
on our end. Maybe you want to launch it again.
Okay, give me 1 second. Launch. Relaunch. Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and read the options as well. I know sometimes when you launch the polls, they're behind the video, like in the background. So sometimes it could be hard, but I'll read them. It says, which of the following is an example of the teacher implementing a sensory play experience? And there are 4 options. It says the teacher shows children a flashcard with a plane and a helicopter, and she asks them to repeat, plane, what is this? A plane. What is this? A helicopter. The second option is that the teacher has children trace the letter H with a crayon on a piece of paper. The third option is that the teacher encourages the children to explore the sand and asks them, how does it feel? The fourth option is that the teacher makes sure the children wash their hands for 20 seconds. So If you're not able to see the poll, don't worry about it. Just think about the options I just said and think about which one would be a sensory play experience. All right. I see some of you are still answering, and we have about 90% of them think that it is the sand experience. And you guys are right. It is the sand experience. And the reason why it's the sand experience is because children are being able to use multiple senses. They are touching, they are seeing. We could ask them to smell. And so they're using multiple senses as we are engaging in this sensory play. And I know there was one that was a little confusing on there. The teacher has children trace the letter H with the crayon on the piece of paper. Why is that not the right answer? Why is that not considered the best sensory experience in these options? Let's think about that. We always use crayons, right? So they're just being able to touch and be able to do it. They're just feeling the crayon. They're not really feeling anything else. There's not interesting textures. It's a very close-ended activity. Thank you for sharing that, right? There's only one right answer and they have to do things in a certain way. So there's not going to be a lot of play-based learning coming from there. It's very, very structured. It's not really going out of their way to engage the senses. Oh, I see Ana Avalos is here. Thank you for coming. You were the one who shared about the close-ended activities. Yes, it's very close-ended. Okay, that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. It's just not the best way to be able to engage children in learning. So if you guys want to do the letter H, that is a great idea. Maybe we do the letter H in the sands. Maybe we do the letter H as we are moving we could say even like moving our fingers, or we might do it with some sticks. And we have a stick, we have a problem. We're trying to make the letter H. How do we do that? What can we do as a solution to that? Oh, you could do it with cereal. Thank you, Luna. That's a great idea. Absolutely. And you know what? With cereal, they're using their pincer fingers. They're grasping, their pincer grasp. This grasp is very, very a hard, fine motor skill. So that might be a great way to do it. You could do it with beans as long as you're making sure you're not working with infants and it's safe. Absolutely. And they're using more of their senses. This is great. So let's look at this experience with Play-Doh. I know that most of us have Play-Doh in our classroom. And what is it, the senses that the children can be using here, and how are they using them? Oh, I see we could use small erasers. Yes, we could use small erasers to get them to do the letters. And they're having opportunities to do things. So let's look at Play-Doh. What type of experience is Play-Doh? How could they use multiple senses here? They can use Play-Doh to do the letters. Absolutely. Masilla. Thank you, Unisley. Yeah, I see that you could use Play-Doh in a lot of different experiences. It's not only when you're pretending that you're cooking something or whatever. You could use, you know what? If we think back to our aquarium, we can have children make the animals of Play-Doh. They can make their own dolphin. They can make their own whale. They can make the different animals. We can incorporate numbers into the Play-Doh. Absolutely. And Play-Doh is something that they are feeling. They're using their fine motor skills. They're feeling. They're being able to, they could smell it if they like. They're being able to see. They're having opportunities to be creative. It's more open-ended. They can make roses. Yes, if you're doing a lesson about flowers, you could connect it to a book. They could do shapes. They can build a house for their family. And that's a good one because that's more like of a little project. How are you going to build the house? What materials, what pieces do we need to make for our house? I noticed your house doesn't have a roof. What happens if it rains? What do we need to add? So they could do a lot of different things. And you know what? Play-Doh is a really cool sensory play experience that you can make it into play-based learning a lot. They can model the different letters. If they're building their house, hey, how are people going to know it's your house? How about if we put your name in front of your house? Wonderful. They can build different lines. They can use the cutter shapes. And we could say, how do we use it? Why did it come out that way? Maybe it needs more. Maybe it needs less. We're using more and less. That's mathematical thinking. Building shapes, great. We could use fragrances in the classroom. Absolutely, that's a great sensory experiences. What does the thing smell like? Does it smell good? Bad? Does it have a foul odor? So it lets us bring in some of those ideas. So here we come back to this picture, right? And we think about our classrooms. How many of these experiences are we currently having? And how can we move from these experiences to these experiences? And write down in your notes section, what are you going to try that's new? What is it? Is it Play-Doh? Is it the shaving cream? Is it the sequarium with the blocks? Is it paint? You guys can think about what is it that you want to try. I have another example here. This teacher here that's holding up these flashcards, she loves these kids. She really wants them to learn. She's sitting with them and she is showing them the flashcard and she's saying, what is this? What letter does it sound like? She has the best intentions in the world. She loves those kiddos and she really wants them to learn their letters. But when she looks around, she notices the kids look something like this. They're looking, some of the kids are looking around. You have one or two kids that are super into it. They're like, that's I for ice cream. But the rest of the kids, they're kind of looking around. They're not paying attention. This one's over here smirking. Who knows what he's thinking about in that moment? They're bored. And so I absolutely admire that passion that that educator has. I admire her will to teach those letters. And I agree with her that that is an important skill that children need to learn through literacy. But we can do those skills here in the one to our right. They can make their ice cream cone there. They can talk about the letter I. And they're still learning the letter I. She is still meeting our goal, but now she's doing it in an easier way. She's doing it in a way where she is not fighting an uphill battle of kids being bored. They're interested. They're intrigued. They're motivated. Let's capitalize on that. Let's do these play-based experiences to teach them these skills that we really care about in a way that is more fun and engaging, that gives them opportunities to be flexible, that actively engages them and their senses. So when we're doing these play-based experiences, we want it to be multisensory. We want it to be open for them to explore. You know what? If while we're doing things that start with the letter I, that kid doesn't want to do an ice cream and he wants to do an igloo, let's let that kid do an igloo. We'll have ice cream inside the igloo so it could stay cold, no problem. Engage in that pretend openness and exploratory with them. Does it take practice for us to do that? Yeah, because it's hard to be on the spot and think of those connections. That's why we have moments like this one. We have moments where we get to think about these things ahead of time and plan for them. And you know your kids, you know what they're going to bring up, right? You know if your kids love cocoa melon and they're going to want to talk about everything for cocoa melon. Okay, so let's build ice cream for cocoa melon. Get them engaged in the play, be silly with them. Introduce a variety of materials and textures. I love that we're sharing here, constantly asking them questions to get to know them. That's when you make things relevant and exciting for them, that is when they're going to want to be more engaged, right? If I was here presenting examples that you do with kids that are 8 years old, you guys wouldn't be that into it. You wouldn't be able to answer all these questions and all these amazing ideas in the chat. So we got to make things relevant for you so you can make things relevant for them. You let them use their imagination. Let them be creative. Have movement experiences where they're developing those fine motor and gross motor skills. We talked about that idea of like wiggling like a fish as we're doing our sequarium. We can build our sequarium structures and add some Play-Doh to that. So they're using their fine motor skills. Encourage them to share that with their friends so they can use their language and their literacy as they are maybe naming the different parts of that sequarium. And you know what? And I'm sure you guys have noticed this. As children are using their hands and multiple senses, they tend to be more relaxed. They do this for adults. I'm sure, don't know if you guys have seen this. For adults, they now have these like adult coloring books where you have to pay attention that, you know, the number 1, you color it a certain number. And I know some people say, and honestly, I was one of them at first. I was like, hey, that's kind of silly. I don't want to do that to relax. I want to go to a spa and get a massage. You know, that's what I call relaxing. But you know what? I tried it. And as I was sitting there looking at the letter 1 and getting my little paint to put on the little areas, I kind of, it made me an opportunity to be mindful. It gave me an opportunity to kind of be mindful of the moment and disconnect. And as children are engaging with these senses, as they are being mindful and thinking about, wait, how do I build a dolphin with this Play-Doh? Where's the fin gonna be? How do I shape that? They are going to be more relaxed. And the more relaxed and regulated they are, the less challenging behavior you have in your classroom. So here I have some more examples. I like to give you guys a lot of examples because you guys know your kids. So there's some examples that are going to work in your classroom and others that kids don't care about and they don't think it's fun. The only way we know that is through observing children. So I give you guys all these examples and you guys can pick which ones you want to try out. This is a teacher that her kids, they just came back from summer vacation. And a lot of them shared that they had been to the beach. And so she decided to do a sensory experience with seashells. So they can feel the seashells, they can compare which ones are smooth and rough. And she's going to be building her own beach in the classroom with them. And so she has these experiences to all connect to that experience because she knows what they're interested in. Here, this teacher, she noticed that she's doing a lot of sensory experiences with children's hands, but she's like, you know what? Let's involve other body parts. And she's like, let's use their feet. They don't usually use their feet. And you know what? I have like 2 or 3 kids that are always taking off their shoes, and I'm always trying to get them to put on their shoes. Let me give them an experience where they can use their feet. And now they'll be doing the right things of taking off their shoes. Luna was sharing that, yeah, children think it's silly to use their feet. They love it, how it kind of tickles them. And so she did this experience with them to get them to be able to feel water and be able to feel these like soft things. And she even put a bin that has a little bit of harder rock to ask them, how is it that it feels different and the same? That comparison is mathematical skills. And that is a good play-based experience. And maybe you have them do that to think about, what is it, the material that the animals need, that dolphin needs? Is it the rocks inside the pool? Is it little furry balls? Or is it the liquid water? What is it that the animals can swim in? So what is liquid that they can swim in? And so now you got them to really understand, why is it that animals need that water? Right? You got them to critically think about that and make that decision. So absolutely. I see many of you are sharing the feed idea. Go ahead, kids, love it, love it, love it, love it. If you are using some of these experiences, just make sure that you have kids test out if they're too ticklish, because if they're too ticklish, maybe they get the material and they put it a little bit on their feet, or give them the idea of using their hands if they want to. Some children like it, some children don't, but that is the beauty about play-based experiences. We have room to adapt. You see how that's different than holding up a flashcard, or that's different than giving them a paper and say, trace the letter H. We don't have that flexibility there. We're here, we do have that flexibility. That kid can explore with his hands or his feet. That kid can still critically think about that material. I know some of us have children in our classroom that are either in the process of being diagnosed with autism or already diagnosed. We can have them use gloves for this experience if they don't want to touch it. We can put these materials in a Ziploc bag and they can still be incorporated and being parts of these STEM experiences and adapt it. That's what play-based learning gives us an opportunity to do, to include everyone. No matter where they are in the process, we have ideas to get them to learn the concepts. And that is really important for all the children in the classroom. So I'm going to share another Zoom with you guys, another launch. And I just want you to think about the kids in your classroom. I listed a couple of sensory materials that a lot of people, a lot of teachers have shared. I've implemented a lot of these in our classrooms. And maybe these are the ones that work for you, or maybe it's something else. So think about your classroom. Think about your kids. And think about which is the following sensory material that is your favorite to use with your kids. You notice that they really like this one. Maybe you as a teacher, you also have a preference and you think that some of these are cooler than others. And that is okay. So I'm going to give a second while I relaunch this one. And the list is right on there. Ah, I see. Okay. All right. It seems that this poll is a little bit upset. Oh, I have to end this other one. Ah, that's what happened. Okay, I see many of you are already answering in the chat. That is also great. Don't worry about it. Yes, sink and floating activities. That is a great idea. You could use, your kids like to use blocks. Your kids like to use bubbles. All right, the poll's working. You guys can answer whatever way you like. Blocks, paint, nature materials. I put those on here because those are excellent for kids. You know, if you think about adults and you think about one of the ways that we reduce things like depression and anxiety is interacting with nature. Let's bring that into our classroom. It's good for our kids too. We can do things with leaves and sticks and stones. Great. Yeah, we can use the stuff for natural experiences and build pictures in our classroom. I saw some of you sharing kinetic sand, the water table. Yes. Marbles. As long as your kiddos are old enough to bring that into the classroom, that's great. Feathers. We could bring feathers into the classroom as well. Wow, I see a lot of you. It's kind of even in terms of what kids are liking here. Water tables, Play-Doh, sand, shaving cream, paint, bubbles. All of those are between 30 and 40% of you. 46% with those nature activities. Wonderful. Collecting the shells and the leaves to do some of these science experiences. Cotton, yes, yarn leaves. Wonderful. These are, you guys are thinking about your kids. You guys are thinking about this sensory experience that they like. And I want you guys to share. Have you done some of these experiences already? What skills did the children learn? What were you focusing on when you did these experiences? And you could share with me in the chat. You could write your notes in your engagement tool. If you didn't print it, that's okay. Write it in the notebook next to you. What have you already implemented that you are already doing? And what skills were children having an opportunity to learn? I see that some of you have been using sand. How have you used it? Have you built letters with it? Or were you building a sand castle and they were learning about cause and effect when you mix water with sand? I see some of you were using foods and having children try different foods. Great. So they're learning about texture. That is a scientific thinking. You've used these experiences and children have loved it. They've been having fun with it. Wonderful. Great. So you've already been doing some of this stuff. So all we're going to do now is that when we go back into our classroom on Monday, all we're going to do now is that we're going to do a little bit more of that. We're going to make sure that we're incorporating some of these experiences. We're going to talk to our directors and say, you know what? I need these opportunities for children to get dirty, for them to be able to take off their shoes and step on the sand and step on these cotton and see how it feels. We could have hidden letters in the sand, and they got to be detectives to be able to find them. Using measuring cups and funnels, and why do we use each one, and what does it help us do? And how is a funnel different than a cup? These are all great ideas. And one of the things I want you all to notice about these sensory experiences, as we've been talking about all these ideas, is that we are slowing down experiences. Sometimes I see teachers plan these amazing ideas, and then they do it so fast that the kids don't get to learn as much from it. When we slow down our experiences, when we introduce one thing at a time and give children time to think, to explore, to answer our questions, when we do those things, children are better able to learn from the experience. So I have some suggestions for you guys to be able to do that. You guys can introduce one material at a time and pause and wait for a child to become familiar with that material. You can encourage children to use all their senses as they're exploring that material. Ask questions. How does it feel? And give children time to respond. You can use those opportunities to incorporate other ideas into that experience. Does it make any sounds? What happens when we tap it in this surface? How about in this surface? Why does it sound different? How about if we tap it harder? How about if we tap it slower? Does it have a smell? Have you smelled this before? Where have you smelled this? Oh, yesterday you remember that we used that same paint in class? Is it different today? What do we notice about how thick the paint is? What is the viscosity of it when we add water? Does it get thinner or does it get thicker in the paint? Does it have higher viscosity? And so it's an opportunity as we slow down these experiences to introduce these vocabulary words. I want to be honest with you. That word viscosity, I learned it when I was in high school. Some of the teachers that I work with today, I have kids that are 4 years old that are talking about the viscosity of things because they've been introduced to it, because the experiences that they have in the classroom have slowed down. They've allowed teachers to they themselves learn some of these words. I wish I would have learned that in preschool. I would have had an easier time in some of my science classes later on in life. So you're introducing that vocabulary, right? Like Eunice is mentioning. Use this time to explore these ideas, to help them get exposure to it. They're not going to maybe use the word viscosity today, but they might use it later. I had a teacher, shout out to Coconut Grove, San Albans Coconut Grove. I don't know if anybody here is in that school. This teacher was interested in showing children the difference between things that were translucent and things that were not. Translucent are things we could see through. And so she slowed down her experiences. She was doing some of her music experiences, and it was like they had a scarf, and she was trying to expose them throughout the day to things that were translucent and things that were not. And she showed them how to test it. She said, if we look through it and we can see through it, that means that it is translucent. And you should have seen these 2-year-old kiddos by the end of the school year saying, translucent, translucent, this is not translucent. Because even though that's such a big word and it's such a big idea, because we gave them the exposure to it multiple times across different experiences, they were able to do it. So slow down your experiences. We don't have to live in a rush. We can use a magnifying glass. We can have these bottles right here, these plastic bottles that everybody throws away. I love to use them in the classroom because children, you could do so many things with it. Get a magnifying glass and explore the textures of it. Oh, it is rough here at the top. I feel that it is rough. Oh, when I look at it, I could see through it. That must be that it's translucent. You can use these water bottles as part of building this aquarium, and you could have spent 2 days on exploring these water bottles. Slow down. I see that teachers are doing too much. Slow down your experiences. Explore one material at a time. Expose children to these new vocabulary words. Let children try new ways of playing things. Maybe you're exploring this water bottle and one of them tries to balance it on their head. Now you have an opportunity to talk about balance. How do we keep it balanced? What do you notice in your body that you're doing it? You see how your core is contracting? Your abdomen is contracting? That is making you be able to balance this on your head. Oh, let's try to do it with one foot. Oh, it's harder now, right? And now you're bringing in physical development. So slow down. Let them use new ways of using the different materials. Children are naturally constantly trying to understand the world around them. They think that the world is interesting. So let's capitalize on their interests. Let's give them time to explore the materials in a play-based way. Allow them to engage in complex level of thinking as they're observing, processing information, thinking about these vocabulary. They're going to be better able to concentrate and be able to pay attention. So I know our break is coming up. I'm going to just share with you this quick video of a teacher that decided that she was going to bring in sensory play and play-based learning into a transition. You guys are educators. Transitions are hard. A lot of the times there is challenging behavior there. So I am going to share how she brought in sensory play. And she did it in a way that was quick, that got the kids to line up, that got them to go outside, and she made sure to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. We're going to watch this cute video and reflect on it, and then we will take our break. I know we need to stretch a little bit. All right, here is this amazing educator. Here we go. We have the subtitles. This is 20 seconds, super fast. And see how she did it. She's going to go do a paint experience outside because she didn't want to dirty her classroom. And look how she does her transition.
You hold your paintbrush and you're going to tell me how it feels. How about that? Squishy? What feels squishy? The brush? Oh.
Did you hear that excitement when that little baby said, and this is hard, right? She just explored that for the first time. She is having those aha moments of saying, wow, this is hard. This is what it means that it's hard. So she is incorporating that into the transition. And guess what? As they're exploring their toothbrush, they're not pushing to get in line. They are not hitting each other. They are engaged in this play-based learning experience. So we're going to go ahead and pause there for our break.